5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
One of the more hot button issues in our culture today is the LGBTQ movement, or movements, really. Many of us have family member friends who are identifying as one of those acronyms. And many Catholics are wondering, what is the Catholic perspective on all of these issues? Same-sex attraction, transgender, and so on. That's what we're going to be talking about today on Ignition. Want to dive into what the Catholic perspective is. So welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald, and we want to set your faith ablaze so that you might live the adventure that comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ. Before we get into this topic today, we want you to know that we love listener feedback. So if you've got questions about today's topic, or if you have ideas for future topics, please contact us. The easiest way to do so is by email. The address is ignition@sfcatholic.org. Again, ignition@sfcatholic.org. I'm joined in studio by my illustrious co-hosts.
Illustrious. Or usually missing. It's more like missing.
Do you know what illustrious means, Renae?
I don't think it's a good thing.
Yes,
Illustrious? I thought
that
was
had a journalism major?
I thought that had a bad
connotation. Illustrious?
Oh, shush.
Renae, how are you? Did I get to your name yet? I think I just said illustrious
awesome.
co-host. Look it up in your dictionary. You got a bunch of dictionaries in your office. Look it up. Hi, Renae.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, LGBTQ stuff. So the reason got
a little
to handle
trepidation about
controversial
this.
topics.
I do, but I'm always afraid I'm going to say something stupid and get myself in trouble.
That's a given on Ignition.
Well, that is true. Well, just anytime. It's not Ignition. I mean, have you heard Catholic Views?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a petition started to
take me off the air
to replace you with another host. What do you call it? What's the petition website?
Oh, stop it!
Go petition me or something. Oh no, that's so.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's fine.
Okay.
So what I wanted, recently, and I told you this when I was proposing this as a topic, been giving some talks in some of our parishes, actually to junior high and high school students, about what the Catholic perspective is, because that age in particular, Catholics of any age, people of any age, wonder what is the Catholic perspective on these issues. But I think especially at those ages, because I think in some ways it's more top of mind for young people. So I because of those talks that I've been giving in parishes, I thought this would be a relevant and, to be honest, easy topic. Ironically, to bring it easy.
Are you kidding me?
It's gonna be easy for me. I don't know about you.
I'm just gonna sit quietly over here.
Oh yeah, like that ever happens. So 5 points that we're going to walk through.
Okay.
And feel free to ask questions along the way. I prefer that you ask questions along the way, but if you want to save them up till the end.
I probably won't do that.
Okay. So the first one. So again, if we have family member friends, or if maybe you're a listener right now is identifying as gay, lesbian, transgender, or any of the other letters in the acronym, what is the Catholic perspective on this? And the first thing that I've been emphasizing and stressing for a long time, not just in these recent talks, but for a long time, is that we as Catholics are called to love everyone in the truth. So to love everyone in the truth. And there's two things in particular that I want to emphasize on this particular point. So to love obviously means, as opposed to hate or mock or bully or belittle or make fun of.
Right.
I mean, we've all gone through junior high and high school,
Yes.
and it's really easy to, well, maybe not hate, but
kids are mean.
Kids can be
Kids
mean.
are mean.
Yeah, for whatever reason. I mean, you can, just the way you're dressing or whatever. Let alone for those who maybe are struggling with or just identifying as gay, lesbian, transgender, etc. So we as Catholics are called to love everyone and not to hate anybody. But the opposite of love actually isn't. So we shouldn't hate. We're supposed to love. But there's a second thing we're not supposed to do. It's actually what the opposite. I think most people, if you say, what's the opposite of love? They'd probably say hate. It's actually not. Do you know what the opposite of love from the Catholic perspective actually is, Renae?
Tolerance?
Indifference.
Which is that makes more sense.
Related.
Yeah.
Like, so,
yeah, it is.
So, like, well, whatever. You be you. Right. You be you. Mm-hmm. No, that's not. No, there is a way in which we should respect people's differences.
Right.
You be you has some truth in it, but oftentimes the way it's used is, I don't care what you do.
Right.
That's not love.
Right.
To love means to want what's best for the other person.
Right.
To will the good of the other, to use the more formal language. So if I'm loving someone, I want what's best for them. And how do we know what's best? Well, and we don't have time to dive into this. We could do this in another episode. We, as Catholics, we believe. I know that God has, and how do I know this? That's what we could talk about later. But God has revealed to us the truth about who we are.
Right.
I didn't invent it. God has revealed it to us through his church. So we're called not to hate, but also not to be completely blasé and indifferent.
Right.
I mean, if I had a friend who was really struggling and was considering doing something that would really be bad for themselves, would I really want to be like, whatever? Like,
right.
No, that's not love.
Right. You want to love them where they are, but also help them get to the place where they should be.
Absolutely. So we meet them where they're at. We love them what's best. So that, again, we don't hate and so on. And, we're not judgmental.
Right.
We're not superior. We're not arrogant.
Now, when you say we're not judgmental, I think that trips people up.
It does.
Because there's a difference between judging the person and judging the action.
Right.
So I think that's where people misunderstand that idea of judgment.
Yeah, that's a great point. So when we talk about not being judgmental, it's about what's the attitude of my heart.
Right.
Is it full of tenderness and mercy? I want what's best for you. And what you're doing, whatever it is, overeating, being impatient, being a jerk.
Speeding down the interstate like the guy I saw this morning.
There we go. It was not Bill was speeding down Prairie.
Right.
I want what's best for you. So judgmental is like to have sort of a haughty, arrogant attitude, and it's to think that I've got it all together. That's kind of the arrogance. Like,
I can't believe you would do that, and I would never do that.
Yeah. So it's Jesus talks about that, especially in the Sermon on the Mount. It's about not pulling the plank out of your own eye before I get the little speck that's in your eye.
Right.
But the implication there is that once I have addressed my issue, that out of love and respect, again, not because I'm better, that I should help you with the little speck that's in your eye.
It's out of love because you want the best for that person.
Exactly.
Willing the good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I have to lead and emphasize. One of the talks I gave recently, question and answer afterwards, a written question, and I think it was just a high school kid being a little, punkish.
What?
Said,
no.
So what about non-binary people? Why do you hate them? I'm like, well, I just got done emphasizing we're not supposed to hate anybody, so I don't hate anybody. Doesn't mean I say, hey, you be you about everything you want to do. There's a medical condition that unfortunately some people have where they feel like they shouldn't have their want to cut off
arm,
a limb.
And this is a rare condition,
it's rare,
by the way. But
very rare.
But it is. Yeah.
But it's a real condition. And it wouldn't be loving to me, hey, you be you. If you feel like you should cut your arm, that would not be loving. Right. So it's not, I'm not being hateful if I say you shouldn't cut your arm off. That's not hating them because they have this, I want what's objectively best for them. All right. So number one, Renae, again, love everyone in the truth. Right. Okay. Secondly, relatedly, we as Catholics are firm about this, just as firm about this. Every man, woman, and child, no matter what they think or what they do, has been created on purpose, uniquely by God. Every man, woman, and child, no matter who they are, what they do, what they've done, how they think, has been saved by Jesus Christ, redeemed by Jesus Christ in his death on the cross. Every man, woman, and child, no matter what they think, do, have done, will do, is loved uniquely by God. We are absolutely firm on that God desires the salvation of every man, woman, and child. Right. Everyone. God wants all of us to be saved. And part of this is, so we've been created by him. And so emphasizing that, and then a kind of a corollary of that. This is still the second point, though. He's given me both. He's given me myself. He's given me my existence. There's a plan for my life, and he wants me to grow in my knowledge of who I am as he has created me to be.
Right. Not. Would you say then not as I want to create myself to be? Okay.
So this is the big thing. So my existence, the meaning of my life, the purpose for my life, is meant to be discovered by me, not created or invented by me.
That's hard to, I think, especially now, because of the push that comes from society or certain parts of society.
Right.
It's hard to understand that.
It is. And this is
and to separate it.
This is a very American attitude, to be honest, like across the board, like the self-made man, right? Well, no, nobody's self-made. Right. There's a way in which I can take initiative and so on and do things. Right. Absolutely. But we can take that idea way too far. And the fundamental Christian Catholic perspective is we've received who we are from God. So part of the adventure of life is to discover who I am as he has created me to be. And in doing so, I will find the fullness of flourishing, happiness, fulfillment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's easy. And this can get to the next point. So it doesn't mean it's easy. So to discover who I am as God has created to be and my plan for my life, and to live that plan out, to live out that identity, it's not always easy, but it is, no pain, no gain. Right. It is the way that will lead to my fulfillment and happiness. So love everyone in the truth. Everyone has been created, redeemed, and is loved by God, and he desires us to discover who we are as he's created us to be. Questions?
Nope.
Okay. So we'll get to number 3 in just a moment. But if you're just tuning in, welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Bergwald, visiting today with Renae Kranz about the Catholic perspective on same-sex attraction and transgender, so LGBTQ. And there's actually a lot more letters in the acronym. Trent Horn, the Catholic apologist, by the way, and he has a podcast. He's on Catholic Answers Live a lot. He works for the organization Catholic Answers, but Trent also has his own podcast, Council of Trent.
Yes.
Very clever. 2 or 3 years ago, he just very objectively walked through all the letters. There's like 12 or 11, 12 letters in the acronym.
I feel like.
It does. And he just explained what all of them mean with very little editorial comment, actually. So that was really informative to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're talking about those things. 5 points that I've been emphasizing when I've talked about the Catholic perspective on these issues lately. Again, the first one, we're called to love everybody in truth, which means no hate and no whatever, you be you. Secondly, everybody has been created, redeemed, and is loved by God, and he's got a plan for our life, and we're fulfilled to the extent that we discover and live out that plan and identity. Number 3, though, every one of us is flawed.
Nope. Sorry.
I know you're shocked that's true about me. I know that you thought I was perfect in every way.
Every way.
But so everyone, because of what we call original sin, every human being is in some way broken or bent. Flawed.
Or bent. I've not heard that
We're
before.
bent.
Okay. Yeah.
We're bent. We are, in a spiritual way, curved in on ourselves. So like if you think of somebody who has really bad scoliosis, spiritually speaking, we all have a case of spiritual scoliosis that, depending on how we live our life, can actually get worse or better.
Right.
We'll come back to that. But everyone, now, to say that I'm flawed, broken, or bent is not a moral judgment. It's not. It doesn't mean that I've done something wrong. It's unfortunately a consequence of the fall of the very first 2 human beings, Adam and Eve. Their original sin against God has impacted all of their descendants, including you and me. So it's not saying that I've done something wrong. It's not a moral judgment. It's a judgment of fact, and it manifests itself physically. So I'm flawed in all sorts of spiritual ways. I'm impatient.
Kind of bossy sometimes.
I can be. Well, that's not a flaw.
Well, I agree because I'm kind of bossy sometimes. So I agree. Not a flaw.
All of my negative characteristics, both of them.
Both of them.
But then physically too. Like I had my gallbladder out a few years ago, and when they're in there, they found I got some weird white growth around my liver. There's and it's been there my whole life. It's not dangerous. It's just there.
Funny.
That's a flaw.
I got lots of those going on. There's lots of flaws going on in there physically.
That's all because of original sin. So whether it's that or my inability to not graze when there's all sorts of yummy food out, I think
we all have that one pretty much. Right? The struggle is real.
the difficulty we have, in other words, to control our desires.
Yeah.
That's a consequence of original sin. So same-sex attraction, gender dysphoria, those are other ways that some of us are flawed. We're all flawed in different ways. So, because one of the questions that came up recently was, so are you saying those are flaws? Yeah. But the growth around my liver is a flaw. My impatience is a flaw. The way that I can be inordinately bossy sometimes.
Only sometimes. It's not that much.
But that's a flaw.
Right.
The flaw by itself is not, so it's a flaw, but these flaws by themselves, these tendencies or desires we have, they're not sinful. They're not going to send us to hell.
Right.
It's what we do with them.
In any of those, them, not just this particular topic. Yes.
The growth around my liver is never going to send me to hell. But my more emotional, psychological personality flaws, if I ran with them too much, it's going to deepen my spiritual scoliosis. And then spiritually I'm in trouble.
Right.
It's when I give in to these desires. And we shouldn't indulge every desire. Those unfortunate people who have that sense that they should cut off their limb. We just shouldn't indulge. I shouldn't indulge my impatience.
Right.
I shouldn't indulge my desire to eat all the Christmas baking goodies that my wife makes.
They're so good.
Just because I desire it doesn't mean I should do it.
Right.
And
just because if you're married and you desire another person, that doesn't mean you should do it.
Right. And here this is maybe I'll have an answer. It's a rhetorical question. Renae, we know that about so many ways. Like if I was struggling with an addiction to crack cocaine, you wouldn't say, you be you.
In San Francisco, they might.
Well, let's
see. I told you I'd get myself in trouble.
I know. No, right. But sane people,
yes, right.
No, you shouldn't indulge somebody's really self-destructive behaviors.
Right.
We know that about all sorts of things, but yeah, you're right. It's not always true about things that should be obvious, like hardcore drugs. When it comes to sexual desires, though, we have this idea that, those are all okay. Why? Why is every sexual desire?
I could give you a lot of answers to that will probably get us down rabbit holes we don't want to go down.
Well, so maybe that's another episode we do sometime because we know in all sorts of ways not every desire should be indulged, but the way our culture treats a lot of not just these issues, but all sorts of issues around human sexuality, you would think that everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Well,
I think one of them is, and this won't take us down a weird rabbit hole or get me in trouble, I don't think. But one of them is that this false sense of freedom, of I should be able to do whatever I want.
Okay, but again, we're not that way with, we don't encourage the alcoholic to keep drinking.
I agree. But the alcohol thing, you can see the destruction a little more directly, whereas society has made the sexual thing less, it's not destructive. It's good. It's natural. It's healthy. So then it becomes a freedom issue, and I should be able to do whatever I want. That's one thing. There are lots of other reasons why it has.
Component.
Yeah.
But I'm still wondering, because we recognize in so many ways that there are things that are bad for me.
That's a good point, and it would be a good point to bring up to someone who kind of feels that way, to say, okay, but you don't say this is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And on that point, by the way, just real quickly, when we're talking with people who have same-sex attraction or gender dysphoria, And it's really important, I think, to accompany them with tenderness and mercy and not get in their face and yell, obviously, that sort of thing. And that's where the importance for us to pray about, okay, how do I really walk with this person and help them to, again, embrace the identity that God has given them. They don't have to create their own identity.
Right.
We also don't get to create our own identity either, that freedom thing.
Right.
But we can and should find the identity that God has given us, and that's our path to happiness. So, but because we're flawed in our desire to sort of stand upright because of our spiritual scoliosis, it hurts.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Right? It hurts. So I'm not in any way and this is something I also want to emphasize, especially when it comes to gender dysphoria, same-sex attraction. I am very well aware, the church is very well aware that people don't, the vast majority of people, I mean, sometimes you get silly fads kind of things, but most people who experience same-sex attraction or gender dysphoria have not chosen it.
Right.
And don't desire. And it's really and there is a real experience of, I mean, feeling is inadequate to explain the inner turmoil.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because yesterday on Catholic Answers Live on my drive home, Jimmy Aiken there was a question about this, about choosing that, or is it genetic?
Yeah.
And he was answering that question. And you can go to their YouTube channel and watch yesterday's episode, which was February 17th?
Yep.
Yesterday, in the second hour of it. And he talks about that, and he has a very good explanation for it. He is not pretending to know everything, and so on. But Jimmy Aiken always has very good kind of explanations about things like this.
So the point there, because people say, well, aren't they born this way? Well, that goes back to the flaw thing. Or didn't God make them this way? No, God created us, but because of original sin, every one of us is flawed.
Right.
Physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically.
Right.
So these are just variations of flaws that all of us experience. Okay, so we're all that's the third point.
Okay.
Flawed. So number 4, then, a bit more substantially, to be a human. So the issue, not the issue. One of the things with transgender, particular gender dysphoria in particular, is it misunderstands the nature of the human person. The human person is not, so who I am is not some psychological or spiritual thing that lives within a body.
Right. How do I want to say it? Disconnected body.
Right, correct. Right. So who I am is the union, the unity, the composite of this body and this soul. So Chris Bergwald is not a spirit or a personality that inhabits this body.
Right.
And therefore I could, theoretically be reincarnated.
Right.
Or I wish I could have lived a century ago or a century from now. No. This, who I am, is this body, which came from my parents, obviously, and this soul, which is created directly by God. So who I am is body and soul together. It's not the spirit thing dwelling within the body. My spirit, my soul, my personality didn't put on my body the way I put on my clothes this morning.
That'd be really creepy, and I don't ever want to see that.
Right. So the human person is this body, and so this is why. It's. I mean, I'm not denying this is what people with gender dysphoria experience. I'm just saying the experience is not. It's a real experience, but it doesn't match the reality of who they are as God has created them.
Right.
And I know that sounds harsh. Would be happy to. Somebody want to talk about that? We could talk about that. But I can't be a woman trapped inside a man's body,
right? Because
I am this body and this soul. I don't just have a body. I am a body. I am this body and this soul joined together.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, but it is difficult.
Well, and it's
because of the hardship that people are undergoing because of that. So it's difficult.
Yes, it is. So again, I'm not denying. I know people experience it, but not all of my experiences. Not my perception does not always match reality.
Right.
My perception of myself does not always match the reality of who I am.
Right. We usually think we're a lot better than we are.
Right. Speaking for yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So, who I am is this body and this soul together. And then fifth, final point. So again, love everyone in truth. Everyone is created, redeemed, and loved uniquely by God. He's given all of us a plan and an identity that the human adventure is to discover and live out that. And we find fulfillment in that, even though it's hard. And it's hard because, number 3, we're all flawed. Physically, but also spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. Number 4, the human person is a body-soul unity, composite. It's not, I don't wear my body. I don't just have a body. I am a body. And 5th, finally, just the last couple of minutes, the purpose of human sexuality. So God did not have to create the human race with 2 sexes.
Right, he did not.
He did. He created all sorts of other species, plant and animal species, asexually, where there's not a male or a female.
Right.
They reproduce asexually. But he created us with 2 sexes. And yes, there's a reality, hermaphrodites and so on.
But again, that's very rare.
That's very rare. And Trent Horn and other guys at Catholic Answers do a good job of digging into those. But God, the way God, and again, those are variations and flaws. It's not a moral judgment at all. It's just a recognition of a reality that some people unfortunately experience. But God has created us normatively as male and female. Why did he do that? Because it shows forth his glory in a greater way. If we're just all men or all women,
Oh boy.
it would be more boring and less interesting.
And terrifying.
Maybe. So there's the complementarity of the sexes shows forth the glory of God in a way. That's why he makes, I know these are fake, but flowers of variety of colors, white, red, purple, green.
God loves variety.
He loves variety.
But the kind he made.
The kind
Not
he
the kind
makes,
we try to make.
exactly. Yep. So he has made us male and female, and the purpose of our sexuality is for the love of one another, the support of one another, even for those who are who are celibate, priests, religious, etc., and for the procreation of children and the raising up of new generations. Again, that even includes those who don't live lives of sexual intimacy.
Right.
That's the reason why God created it. So that's why same-sex attraction is not a desire that we should indulge, because the purpose of human sexuality is for procreation.
Right.
And he created us male and female, which touches on the gender dysphoria issue.
Right.
So those are the 5 topics, Renae, that I touched on. Thanks for going along for the ride.
No problem.
And that will wrap up this episode of Ignition. Again, folks, if you have any questions about this topic, it's a controversial one. People have a lot of questions. You can please, again, email us, ignition@sfcatholic.org, or with any other ideas for future episodes. And until next time, may God bless you.